I believe that what this country set out to do was something that was going to be done sooner or later, whether we set a specific goal or not. I believe that from the early space flights, we demonstrated a potential to carry out this type of a mission. And again, it was a question of time until this would be accomplished.
Illusion will be created so vast, so large that it escapes their perception. Those who see it will be thought of as insane.
You have probably seen this image, other known as the blue marble, hundreds, if not thousands of times. It was taken almost 50 years ago, during the Apollo 17 mission, yet it is the only picture of the whole round Earth that was snapped by a human being. In order to see Earth as a globe, you have to be at least 32,000 kilometers away from it, and only 24 humans have ever gone that far into outer space. They were the crews of 9 Apollo missions between 1968 and 1972, but only 3 astronauts saw Earth at
overview effect. The idea is that if we pull back far enough from the Earth, we can see the entirety of our planet as a beautiful and fragile home, and be inspired to protect it. Until 1972, that image of a fully illuminated Earth could only be imagined. But then, astronauts aboard Apollo 17 captured it on film, a photograph that's become known as the blue marble. But could a photograph really change the fate of our planet? The blue marble is one of the world's best-known images, but the story of how it was taken and what it did and did not achieve might surprise you. In the 1960s, Americans began to wake up to the damage being done to the planet. Air and water pollution, sprawling development, devastating oil spills, and the threat of extinction. But what would inspire people to take action? One idea came from within San Francisco's counterculture movement, from a leading thinker named Stewart Brand.
Stewart Brand was one of the most important environmentalists of that period. In 1966, February, he dropped 100 micrograms of LSD on his tongue, went up to his rooftop in North Beach in San Francisco to take in the view. And he claimed he could see the curvature of the Earth.
Brand spent the rest of that acid trip trying to figure out how he could communicate this big idea to the world. His conclusion? We needed a photograph of the full Earth.
Next day goes to a local print shop and prints up hundreds of buttons with a really simple question: why haven't we seen a photograph of the whole Earth yet? And then he sends them to politicians in DC, politicians in the Soviet Union, scientists at NASA, and all of a sudden, within 3 months, the story goes that engineers and scientists at NASA had his buttons on their lapel pins. So then after that, NASA consciously changes the trajectory of Apollo 17 so that the mission can capture that image.
So do you know how true that story is?
Well, they were definitely wearing the lapel pins, and they definitely consciously changed the trajectory of Apollo 17 to capture that image. So whether it goes directly back to Brand or not is tough to say, but it seems like lines are pretty straightforward.
So to get the image of Earth as a whole takes being far enough away that its single lens could capture the entire disk. So it really wasn't until the advent of the Saturn V rocket, the first rocket that could actually move people away from the Earth, to get that perspective on the way to the moon.
So what would it have been like to try and take a photo from inside something like this? It's not a tripod setup. It's not an ideal setup for taking a picture.
Well, it's constantly moving through space at about 24,000 miles per hour towards the moon. If you want to capture a photo of the Earth, your windows have to be pointed in the right direction. And so when the vehicle was in a particular position, it could point the camera out, observe, take photographs, and make that moment happen.
To get a spacecraft into position for astronauts to take the full Earth image that Brand envisioned meant positioning the command module precisely between the Earth and the Sun. NASA finally scheduled that trajectory in 1972. On December 7th, Apollo 17 blasted off.
started. We have ignition. 2, 1, 0. We have a liftoff.
5 hours into the mission, the spacecraft's journey had taken it almost 20,000 miles from the Earth. Looking out the tiny capsule window, the astronauts saw something remarkable.
I'll tell you, if there ever was a fragile appearing piece of blue in space, it's the Earth right now.
They picked up their camera, a 70mm Hasselblad like this one, and started shooting. Among the images they captured was the one that Brand had dreamed about, a fully illuminated view of our planet. With no orientation in space, the original photograph was what we would consider upside down. It would need to be rotated and cropped to turn it into the image we know today. That happened as soon as Apollo 17 returned to Earth on December 19th. 4 days later, the Earth image was released to the press and went viral.
It got published all over the world. In fact, the Boston Globe made it an entire front cover of their Christmas issue. In the long term, this thing has gone into children's books and science textbooks and all kinds of places. So that single image really becomes an icon for what we conceive of as the Earth. And that's something that's set in our minds, I think, somewhat permanently.
But I think one of the problems with the image is that it erases people.
The taking of the blue marble was an incredible technical feat.
This is Apollo Control at 5 hours, 30 minutes ground elapsed time.
That view of the Earth for Rev there was something I was looking forward to and was not disappointed.
That's great, Jack.
Could you give us our distance from the Earth, please?
18,100, Fido says.
Okay, and I suppose we're seeing as 100% full Earth as we'll ever see. Certainly as I've ever seen. Well, it's these kind of views that stick with you forever.
Did you get any pictures of that, Jack?
Oh, yeah, we got some pictures earlier. I'm going to get another one here in a minute. I'll tell you, if there ever was a fragile appearing piece of blue in space, it's the Earth right now.
So look me in the eyes, tell me what you see. Perfect paradise, tearing at the seams. I wish I could escape, I don't wanna fake it. Wish I could erase it, make you hard believe, but I'm a bad liar.
Everybody looking at me?